Hi guys, welcome to Garden on a Hill where we talk about easy home gardening. My name is Vin and in this channel I share things that made my life easy in the garden, which one of those are these amazing bountiful Shishito peppers. They are very trendy right now and in the past years as appetizers in your local Japanese restaurants or even American restaurants, grilled, fried, or sauteed, just with a little salt, it's a perfect appetizer. But it's also an amazing pepper to grow because it is a very easy pepper to grow and also very rewarding. So let's take a look at this and maybe I can share some tips with you how I grew my Shishito peppers on a 4x4 bed and about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plants. Let's go ahead and take a look. If you like seeing my videos and you are learning from my experiments, make sure you support this channel by hitting the subscribe button and that bell button so anytime I upload something new, you get notified. Anyway, despite the trendiness of this pepper as appetizers in your restaurants, they actually date back very far, 16th century, when Japan started to trade with the West. And the etymology of the name of the pepper comes from two words, shishi, which is lion or lion's head, and togarashi, which means chili pepper, because the pepper is so wrinkled that it actually looks like a lion head with a mane. So that's where the name comes from. But 1 out of 10 of these peppers, despite being mild, almost sweet, 1 out of 10 is spicy. So you will always get that treat jackpot when things are spicy. And this pepper gives you that adventure. So make sure before you bite fully in the Shishito pepper, if you're not into hot, make sure that's not the hot one. But let's go ahead and take a look how I grow this pepper. Things that you need to know before planting this pepper. The size of it, it goes about 24 inches high and then about 24 inches in diameter. So in this 4x4 bed, I do have about 8 plants. The way I distributed them was kind of staggered, 3 at one end, 2 in the middle, and then 3 on the other end, about 12 to 14 inches apart, and they should be perfectly fine. They do require full sun. Peppers want full sun at least 6 hours, but during the heat of the summer, they may benefit from something where afternoon shade cast on them, so that does help my harvest. Speaking of harvest, it says 55 days on the seed packet, but in my case it was 90 days. I started these seeds from Seed of Change organic Shishito pepper seeds, March 11, and today is mid-June. So it's actually about 90 days before I harvested, not 55. You may be able to do that in warmer areas like Florida or somewhere else, but in my case, I did not have enough hot days because pepper requires hot days to mature to achieve those 55 days. It's good for container gardening. It's a very compact pepper, so you can move it around and it is very easy to grow. Looking into the seed packet and comparing on what I experienced, it is true that peppers are warm season crops and grow best with warm nights, which increase flower and fruit sets. Fruit set in many sweet peppers can be low at temperatures over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but most chili peppers are more heat tolerant, and I can tell you that Shishito peppers love the heat. Above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, it actually does not degrade the amount of fruit or flowers for the plant. In fact, it does increase it. Keep in mind, in hotter growing conditions, especially when summer comes, it increases the number of peppers that have more heat. So usually it's a 1 hot pepper to 10 mild Shishito peppers, but when it gets hotter, that number increases to 2 or 3. Plants may need to be trellised and supported in favorable warm climates or in climates that have a lot of air going around the garden, especially mine. I usually start my peppers with a stake about 3 inches, not 3 inches, 3 foot high right next to it as I plant my transplant. Then tie it back to the pepper just to make sure that when wind hits my garden that it doesn't break the peppers off, because peppers do have a long time to recover if they break. I am going to link a video of how I stake and prune my eggplants and tie it back to the stake. It will be very similar on how I do these peppers. Those eggplants are actually right next to my peppers, if you can see it here in my garden. I started my seeds following the exact instructions in the seed germination grow guide in the seed packet. I'm actually going to put a link here to a video on how I start my seeds in my indoor seed starter. Remember, peppers are most often started indoors and transplanted due to the relative difficulty of starting them successfully. It takes about a month for them to germinate, so you don't want to risk it to plant it directly outside and be damaged by a vermin because it's a long setback. Also, I don't have that enough warm days back in March to actually get peppers to germinate outside. Peppers are highly susceptible to fungal disease, but I'm not going to talk about it because I have not really experienced that. Just make sure when you start it, and if you look at my link to my starting of my seeds, that you can use a heat mat indoors. So you fill your seed trays, plant your seeds about a 1/4 inch deep with the wet soil seed mixture, and then put it on top of the heat seed mat. It does help. If it stays 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit with that seed mat in there, it will start to germinate your seeds within 2 weeks to 4 weeks, which is a very good time frame for peppers because they do take a while. Peppers typically take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and then about a month and a half before you can transfer them. Once I have 3 to 4 true leaves, I do transplant them to 2 to 4 inch pots, and then once they grow in that pot bigger, I start to harden those seedlings 7 to 10 days in and out of the house, not direct sunlight, maybe to the side of your house, before transplanting it once the soil is above 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure you access that growing guide in my seed starters because I describe more on how I start seeds. Now, once you're ready to transplant, it will tell you 12 to 18 inches apart in a line on the seed packet, and also 24 to 36 inches between rows. Now, that's pretty much for row cropping. Since I'm a compact gardener in the city, I have a 4x4 bed. The optimum distance I've used is about 18 inches apart, sometimes 12 inches apart, right? I just try to eye it. I don't really measure it, but that's a good distance, and I just stagger them. So I use 12 to 18 inches apart between rows and between plants, and they are perfectly fine. When you're ready to transplant, make sure you put half a handful of blood meal in the hole. Make sure that the base of the plant is level with the ground and cover that. That blood meal will serve as your long release fertilizer for nitrogen that breaks down in 3 months, constantly giving your plant a nitrogen boost. And during the growing season, make sure you fertilize with a fish fertilizer during the first few months or few weeks to keep those leaves coming. 3 tablespoons to a gallon every 2 weeks, and you see all the leaves will bloom beautifully with this fast release liquid soluble fertilizer. When you start to see flowers, you change your fertilizer to a Alaska More Bloom that is high in phosphorus and phosphate, 3 tablespoons to a gallon every 2 weeks to keep the plant blooming and fruiting through its life cycle. And that's how I do my peppers.
Again, these peppers are great for grilling, frying, or sauteing with some salt, but the best way I enjoy them is just to cut them into diagonal slices, combine them with my garden harvested cucumber, a little garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and apple cider vinegar, and it's a good way to snack on these peppers. Again, make sure you taste one because some of it may be hot.
And that is all I can share about my shishito peppers. I have been growing them for the past 4 years, so that tells you how I like these peppers a lot. Maybe next time we'll grow or talk about other peppers, but for now, that would be it. And see you soon. Happy gardening.